Yes guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we have a video discussing how I would recommend that you set up your diet, or potentially for those of you who are maybe coaches, how you would set up a diet for your clients. So when I'm saying diet, I don't mean in the sense of actually dieting for fat loss. I just mean your nutritional intake, a meal plan, basically caloric intake, macronutrient targets. Like that's what I'm talking about when I say diet. Doesn't necessarily mean for fat loss. This could be for fat loss, this could be for maintenance, this could be for a surplus based on the phase that you're in. So I've got a few different points that I want to cover, and almost in that order of importance as well. So the first thing is going to be protein intake. Okay, now you could argue that you should be thinking about caloric intake first, but I think when the goal is physique development and the goal is, let's say, might not be bodybuilding, but hypertrophy goals, building muscle, protein intake is vital. Yeah. So when we're looking at protein intake, we're looking at ideally minimum 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. Okay. Now I think a lot of people get this mixed up with total body weight. So you might have, again, yourself or a client might be heavily overweight. You could be, let's say, 300 pounds. You're trying to lose weight, your lean body mass might be, let's say, half that. Yeah, or even, let's say, 100 pounds less. Like, do you need to be having 300 grams of protein because that's 1 gram per pound? No. Yeah. I would instead, if that is, you or a client of yours, I would go off their height in centimeters. Okay. Now, I quite like 1.5 grams per pound of lean body mass for most of my clients because I think ultimately, like, there's not really too many downsides to having high protein. If you can digest it well, which usually you'll be able to if meal timings and stress management and things like that are good, digestion's all good, you should be able to manage 1.5 grams per pound of lean body mass. So let's say lean body mass, we're classing it as like basically if you were very, very lean, maybe stepping on stage. Yeah. So if let's say somebody is maybe 150 pounds, yeah, natural bodybuilder, 150 pounds at their absolute leanest, let's say. 150 grams of protein is not that much. Yeah, like I would have them on more than that. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having, like I say, more protein if you can digest it well. Protein is the most satiating of the macronutrients, so it's going to make you feel more full. So in a diet, it's definitely a good idea to have it higher. It can taper off a little bit in a surplus, but you're ultimately going to have a lot more protein through carbs anyway, trace protein. And yeah, basically it's satiating, but also it has a high thermic effect. So basically what that means is for your body to actually break down and utilize that protein, it is going to be harder and we're going to burn more calories than breaking down carbs and fats and utilizing those as an energy source. Protein is a very insufficient or inefficient energy source. Yeah, if we want more energy, we don't just eat more protein. Yeah, like protein isn't going to be our best source of energy. We're going to look at carbs and fats for that. So that can be a positive because it means, okay, I can probably eat more protein and I'm not really going to store it as fat. So it's a good idea within a diet phase to look at having higher amounts of protein. So I would generally go for 1.5 grams per pound of lean body mass. I will try and keep it high when carbs come down within a diet. And also I will try and keep it constant when carbs go up within a surplus. So realistically, protein should stay pretty constant there. Now, we could go down, looking at protein timing. I'd be looking at spreading out your protein every 2 to 4 hours, having a good amount of complete protein, meaning a protein source containing all 9 essential amino acids, every 2 to 4 hours. Yeah, so when I say a good amount, I'm looking at least 20 grams to spike MPS, or at least like 3,000 milligrams or 3 grams of leucine. Okay, so that might be, let's say, 100 grams of chicken breast, 100 grams of beef mince. It might be 30 grams of whey protein. Yeah, it might be, let's say, 5 eggs or four or 5 eggs, like these kind of things. Okay. So that would be like the first thing that I would set in place. Now, the second thing would be then your caloric intake. Now, this is going to be phase dependent. Ultimately, your total calories are going to be your energy intake. Then your energy output, your expenditure, is going to come through your NEAT, so your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is things like this that I'm doing now, moving your hands when you're talking, nodding your head when you're listening to music, tapping your feet, moving around basically, that you wouldn't class as expenditure. That makes up a huge part of your expenditure. Your basal metabolic rate, which is basically the amount of calories that you burn at rest, sleeping, sitting, doing nothing, again, makes up a huge amount of your total calories. And then you've got your actual exercise expenditure. Yeah, so that's going to be your training, your steps, your cardio. Okay, so all of those combined make up your expenditure. Now, when we're looking at whether or not we're trying to gain weight, lose weight. We're literally looking at calories in, calories out, and we're trying to basically skew that scale based on the goal. So if the goal is obviously to gain weight, we want more in than out, and vice versa if the goal is to lose weight. Simple as that. So obviously calories are very important, but again, when the goal is physique based in terms of building muscle, of course calories are important. You know, they're our energy source. Yeah, you know, calories literally are just a form of energy. Yeah. But we want to make sure that we're having a good amount of protein on a daily basis, and even, you know, having protein set out well throughout the day. Okay, so the next thing would be dietary fats. So this is what I'd then be setting up. So we've had calories, protein, looking at fats. So when we're looking at fats, we're looking at ideally 0.5 grams per kilo of body weight, or around about, let's say, for males, you know, it could be a little bit lower than that, especially in a diet. For females, I would try and keep it a little bit higher, just based on like their hormonal production being a little bit more fat dependent. So as well, when we're looking at dietary fats, like we're looking at quality sources. Yeah, we're not just looking at like fats through. This is an example I always use. Like I'll have clients who will have chicken breast, but they'll buy frozen battered chicken breast, and I'm like, that's not the chicken breast that I want you to be using. Like we're looking at whole foods. So chicken breast would be, you know, fresh chicken breast. That would be a whole food because it's pretty much primarily a protein source. Yeah, minimal carbs, minimal fats. When we're looking at whole foods, we're looking at it pretty much being like, you know, one sort of ingredient basically. And generally, when it is one ingredient, it is going to be primarily one macronutrient. So for example, potatoes, primarily carbs, trace protein, minimal fat. Let's say something like fruit, again, primarily carbs. Beef, mince, primarily protein, some fats, minimal carbs, etc. Okay, so when we're looking at fats, we're looking at good quality sources, high levels of omega-3s, things like salmon, nut oils, olive oils or vegetable oils, avocado, dark chocolate, high percentage dark chocolate. These are the kind of sources that we're looking at. Whole eggs, yeah, they're the kind of sources that we're looking at, not just like poor quality fats coming from, let's say, cookies, muffins, those kind of things. Okay, so we're putting a good sort of emphasis towards quality fats across the majority of your meals. Again, dependent on the phase, but specifically, you know, I like to have higher fats in meal one, pre-workout, and pre-bed. Post-workout, in that kind of setting, when we're looking at, especially if food is high, we're looking at, you know, ideally sort of taking on board a lot of carbohydrates in that post-workout window, when, you know, generally GLUT4 levels are higher. So basically your ability to uptake more food, more carbohydrates is greater after a bout of exercise. Fats are going to slow down the digestion of that meal. Okay, so fats can be really beneficial to utilize in any phase, just for health, but in diet phases specifically to slow down the basically the absorption, the digestion of that given meal. You know, if you're having, let's say, within a contest prep, if you're having a meal of just a whey protein shake and 2 rice cakes, you know, it's not going to fill you up for very long. You're going to digest that like that. Whereas if you have, let's say, a protein shake, 2 rice cakes, 10 grams of nut butter, maybe some fruit as well for some fiber and fats are going to slow down that digestion. So that then takes me on to fiber and micronutrients. So micronutrients, we're looking at vitamins and minerals. Macronutrients are your protein, carbs, fats. Okay, so micronutrients, we're looking at basically your fruit, your veg intake. Obviously, you do get micronutrients from other foods like your meat sources, eggs, things like that, yogurt, you know, calcium, things like that. But we're looking at micronutrients in the sense of like making sure you have fruit and veg in your diet. And it's something that people do neglect in any phase. I spoke about this on a story the other day on my Instagram. So in gaining phases, people neglect fruit and veg, especially veg, because it's basically, you know, hard to get it in when you're on a lot of food. You know, you don't really want to be eating loads of veg on top of that. Likewise, when you're in a diet, you know, a lot of people will prioritize it, which is great, but a lot of people will neglect it because they don't want to miss out. I don't want to lose my squares bar in my diet. I'd rather just get rid of the, you know, let's say the broccoli, the carrots, the cauliflower, whatever it may be, the raspberries, the blueberries, get rid of those so I can keep that 1 squares bar that's 23 carb. Yeah, that's not going to be helpful. Okay, not even just from a psychological perspective post-show. You know, forget from a satiation perspective and a potential sort of perspective of becoming deficient in some vitamins and some minerals within a diet phase. So make sure that your micronutrient intake is high. And what I would recommend is 100 grams of fruit or veg at least within every meal. Might even be fruit and veg. Okay, it could be more than that. Yeah, you know, if you are somebody who can tolerate more than that and your digestion's fine, cool. I quite like to say fiber at 10 to 20 grams per 1,000 calories. So if you're having, let's say, 3,000 calories, we're looking at 30 to 60 grams of fibre. Now, some people will tolerate more than that, and that's absolutely fine. Some people might find that when they have it higher than that, bowel movements aren't great, digestion isn't great. Lower than that, bowel movements aren't great, digestion isn't great. So find that sweet spot, and it's usually somewhere within that, within that 10 to 20 grams per 1,000 calories, okay? So fruits that I'd be looking at, and ultimately it depends on you as an individual, fruits that you like, fruits that digest well. When you're in the gaining phase, we might be looking at more so things like dried fruit, fruit juices, more calorie and carb dense fruits, bananas, dates, raisins, grapes, those kind of things. When we're looking at dieting, we're probably going to be looking at the opposite side of the coin. So we're looking at more voluminous fruit, which is going to be more satiating for less total carbs, less total calories. So things like raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, those kind of things. Now, what we're looking at as well is like a wide variety of colours and textures, because that's going to basically give us a wide variety of micronutrients. So without having to check like, what does, let's say, what do grapes contain compared to oranges? You don't, without having to stress about that, just have different colours and different textures, and you're going to know that you're pretty much covering your bases, with both fruit and veg, okay? So the next thing would be adherence. So this could be number one, to be honest, because none of this matters if you're not sticking to your diet. Sticking to your diet is going to be the most important thing if you have physique goals, whether it be gaining or dieting. So when it comes to adherence, you have to make your food enjoyable. You have to make it look nice. You have to make it taste nice. You have to make it smell nice. That's not only going to help you actually stick to the diet, but it's also going to help with digestion. So when we make food look, smell, taste nice, we're going to basically, produce more saliva. Saliva has digestive enzymes and amylase. It basically helps in terms of starting the digestive process within the mouth. So make your food look nice, taste nice, smell nice. That's going to help you stick to it, but it's also going to help with digestion. But then also like having foods that you actually enjoy in moderation. So like if you're somebody who just, let's say, loves cereal or cookies or whatever it may be, have it in moderation. If it's a food that you wouldn't necessarily deem as a productive food within a diet, like cheese, for example, you can still have cheese. It's not we don't have to demonize any foods. Just have it in moderation. You don't need to be having 100 grams of cheese with every meal. Maybe just have some cheese on your final meal with your pasta and your salmon, or whatever it may be. So don't neglect foods that you like. If you really like chocolate, cool, have higher percentage dark chocolate. If you really like peanut butter, cool, have almond butter. Higher quality. Higher quality fats, lower carbs, etc. Okay, so stick to foods that you actually like, and any of those extra foods that you're like, oh, I really like that, but I can't fit it in. You just have to fit it in moderation. There isn't really any food that you can't fit in within moderation. You could even fit in donuts and ice cream and pizza, but you're just not going to be having loads of them on a daily basis. Then we're looking at carbohydrate intake. So we've already covered protein and fats, and we've already covered calories. So basically we spoke about the protein and the fats and sort of how I'd recommend setting those up. Then carbs are going to make up the rest of the calories. Simple as that. Okay, so whether you're gaining, you're going to be on obviously more calories, more carbs. If you're dieting, you're going to be on less calories, less carbs. When we're looking at types of carbs, again, comes like similar kind of concept to the fruit. When we're looking at gaining weight, we're looking at food being quite high. We're looking at more carbohydrate dense, lower volume, higher calorie options. So again, things like rice-based products, rice-based cereal, sushi rice cakes, cream of rice, these kind of things, they're going to be easier to get in when food is high, generally because you can have them at slightly lower volume. They don't have huge amounts of fat or fiber like something like oats or potato would. Oats, higher fiber, higher fat. Potato, higher fiber, higher volume. If you're on 800 carbs a day, I wouldn't recommend having loads of potato within that. If you're on 200 carbs a day, potato is going to be great. Things like cauliflower and broccoli rice, those kind of alternatives, they're going to be great. Again, raspberries, things like that, they're going to be great. Okay, so choosing the carbohydrate sources. You can also look at carbohydrates that are higher in on the glycemic index scale, so high GI and low GI carbs. So high GI carbs being basically higher sugar in terms of the rate of absorption, basically being higher for high GI carbs, which again, when you're on a lot of food, can be helpful, especially post-workout, maybe even pre-workout. You don't want to be having a huge meal where you feel really sluggish going into training. But again, when you're on less food, we want lower GI foods, because when you're leaner, insulin sensitivity is higher, you're going to find bigger spikes in blood glucose levels. So we want to basically control that through, again, like I said earlier, having fats and fiber across meals, but also, like I said, having the ability to manipulate your carbohydrate intake and the different sort of GI ratings of those foods basically. So nutrient timing, meal frequency would be the next one. So when it comes to nutrient timing, again, this isn't essential. Like if, let's say, you got all your protein in across 2 meals and all your calories across 2 meals, cool. Yeah, I'd rather that than you not be doing that. You not be hitting your calories or hitting your protein. So get your protein hit, get your calories hit. Yeah, that would be the most important things. So that's why they were 1 and 2. Yeah, nutrient timing is further down. Yeah, or if we like further up on the pyramid, if we're thinking about the most important things, the base of the pyramid. Yeah, the final things now, meal timing. Ideally eating every 2 to 4 hours, but it's not the end of the world. If you can't, don't be putting loads of pressure on if you eat 5 minutes later than you said you were going to. Meal frequency, again, whether you have like 3 meals or 6 meals or 4 meals or 5 meals, like not going to be the most vital part of your diet or whether or not you make progress or not. Okay, what I would recommend is when you are, let's say, on less total food, often having less meals can be beneficial. So if you're having, let's say, like 1800 calories, having 3 meals of 600 calories can feel a lot easier and a lot more manageable than maybe having 6 meals of 300 calories? Yeah, 6 meals of 300 calories. 6 meals of 300 calories, that's very small, yeah? Whereas if you're on, let's say, 6,000 calories, yeah, maybe that's a bit excessive. Let's say 3,000 calories. I might have just said that. Either way, when you're on more food, I would recommend more meals. Yeah, smaller meals more frequently is generally going to be a little bit easier to stomach. Even just from an eyeballing perspective, thinking, right, okay, I've just got this to eat, then I eat again in a couple of hours. Yeah, that can be easier when you're on more food. When you're on less food, it might be a little bit easier to eat a little bit less frequently and larger portions. Or even trying to eat frequently with larger portions, just lower calorie, higher volume, more satiating foods, more salad, things like that. Peak off season, are you really going to be having salad? I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, within a diet, salad can be really helpful. And then the final thing would be supplementation. So again, there's a reason it's called supplementation. It is supplementary to your diet. Okay, so this might be things like taking omega-3s, vitamin D3 and K2, vitamin C. It might be taking, let's say, like pump products for training. Carbohydrate powder can be helpful, with intra-workout, essential amino acids, all these kind of things. They can come into play, of course, and they can be definitely very, very, very beneficial within your diet. But again, they're the top of the pyramid. Okay, so yeah, that's that, guys. That is how I would recommend setting up a diet, things to consider for yourself or for your clients. Hopefully that was helpful. And if you like videos like this, let me know and I will bring you some more. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.